Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Let Fear Bounce. This is Kim Langling, your host, and I'm so happy that you are deciding to spend just a small part of your day today with myself and my special guest today, coming to us from Canada, Doug Lawrence. Now, he is a multi-published author. He is also the founder of TalentC and is focused on all things mentoring as a solution provider. He has over 30 years of mentoring and leadership experience and is recognized as a thought leader in the mentoring space. He authored the book titled The Gift of Mentoring, and his second book, titled You Are Not Alone, became an Amazon #1 bestseller in North America and the UK, and is a bronze medal recipient in the Global Book Awards. How exciting is that? I was a finalist in the Global Book Awards for my nonfiction book, so I was excited to be a finalist, and you actually got a bronze award. Good for you. That's
Thank you.
exciting. And then also, Doug lost his wife in 2021 to cancer, and he has been dealing with grief since then. His lived experience has provided him with a unique look at grief and the realization that grief does, in fact, impact your mental health. His newest book coming out very soon, folks. It's available on pre-order on Amazon, The Silent Pandemic. It's releasing in April. It speaks to how grief can be a part of your mental health challenges. It touches on how cancer can be viewed as a pandemic, with it being the #1 cause of death in the world today. With each death comes more grief, pain, and suffering, and a further impact on one's mental health. Now, he is also, folks, he's a very busy man. He is also newly releasing and offering a grief support group, which is currently being offered virtually. So, folks, that's something we're going to talk about, and he can share more about, and you can find out how to join in on that should you feel the need to, or you can share that with folks that might need just another little help, a little direction to go to. Doug, welcome, welcome to Let Fear Bounce.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity. I've been looking forward to this for days.
I've been looking forward to it too. Now it's been, I think, almost 2 years or so since you were on. You're a returning guest, and I love having returning guests, but it's been a couple years. And from your bio and the stuff that you sent me, you've been quite busy in the past 2 years.
Yeah, there's been a lot going on, and the obviously the book has consumed a lot of my time, and I went through some writer's block and tried different sorts of ways to work my way through that. But we're in a good place.
Awesome. Awesome. Now, you mentioned writer's block, so that's interesting. How did you pull yourself out of that? And for you, what does writer's block look like to you?
So for me, how what it looks like is that there are no ideas, no thoughts coming forward that I can incorporate into the context of the book. So I'm basically it it's like sitting on a park bench with nothing to do whatsoever. And I never experienced it before, the idea of writer's block. And so what I ended up doing was I did a self retreat. I ended up going away and I got rented a condo in a resort in British Columbia, and I stayed there for a week. And it was a matter of get up in the morning and look at the snow on the mountains and all the things like that. Just whatever I could grab onto, nature, anything like that, I could grab on to sort of kickstart. And I think I ended up 20, 30 to 40 pages that I was able to, in that week time frame, able to do that. Would I do it again? Maybe not. I think I could, if I was going to do it again, I don't know that I would travel that far because it was like a 13-hour drive.
Oh,
Yeah, and you kind of go like, okay, is this going, am I going to be able to get out of the writer's block or
yeah. Well,
for what?
and I've not experienced it. Well, I don't know if I've experienced it. There are days where I'm thinking, it's like I don't have a thought in my head.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know? And if I let that settle too much, then I end up putting pressure on myself.
Yeah.
And then I end up getting stressed. And then stress brings for me depression. It's like this vicious cycle. So I don't know if I've actually fallen into complete writer's block because then I'll get online and I start just reading different things. So it takes my brain, or, I pick up a book, and start reading just to get my brain in a completely different place that's not focused and thinking about what I want to do. And then, for me anyway, thoughts will randomly show up. And I'll be like, oh, there you are.
Yeah.
You know, I've not ever done a retreat, and I know a lot of people swear by them. Um, I don't know if I would want to self-isolate, even though I'm pretty self-isolated every day, but to go away and do, I don't know. I think that's kind of cool that you did that. And at least you said you might not do it again, but you did it once. And it might be peaceful, but I don't know if it would be helpful for my writing. I think I'd probably get too involved in, going on nature walks and checking out what the area around me was like.
Well, and the uniqueness of this location that I picked, it happened to be the very first posting that, as a member of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, it was my first posting as a married couple. So Deborah and I, and so it was quite interesting because I actually had taken a photograph of her and had her sitting in the front seat of the car strapped in, just this photograph and stuff. Because I knew that if I did something like that, that would help unlock what I needed to do. Plus the fact that here I am, I'm going back to where we first began, and even to the point of I was able to find the house which had the basement suite that we lived in for 2 years.
Oh, wow.
And, they
Wow.
probably thought I was kind of a bit of stalker, creepy sort of person. Because if I went to that house once, I went there probably 4 times just to pull in the driveway and go, this is where it began, back out
Oh,
and go. So I think that part helped because I had that emotional attachment to what I was doing, and that helped kickstart the creative juices once again.
it's interesting. And it's actually a beautiful story that you went back there. You
Yeah,
were able to go back there. Some folks might not have been able to do that, but and you brought her with you anyway. So
exactly.
it's actually quite beautiful. That's a short story right there, Doug. Write that out. That's a short
Yeah,
story right there. Do you journal or anything like that?
yeah, I do a
Do you?
lot. Everything I like, everything I do, I write it down. And sometimes I'll write myself, okay, you need to do this, because once in a while I get a somewhat of a prone to procrastination, and I go, okay, I need to move forward. I need to get this going. So yeah, it's yeah,
Cathartic.
yeah,
I've not been, so many people swear by journaling and some have done it since they were, 10 years old, or some just started. I've never done it. And I have so many journals that I could fill because I love buying journals. I think they're beautiful. So I have stacks of them, empty, empty journals, just waiting for all my brilliant thoughts. But I've never sat down and actually journaled. It's like I don't have the patience for it. I don't, it's interesting. My brain just doesn't go that way. And I'm kind of envious of those of you who do journal and how it helps you. And it's leaving something. Now for me, I would love to have a journal, and then, my daughter would be able to know who I truly was
yeah.
sometime down the way, because I had a life before her. Our kids don't, they see you as mom, but it's just, I don't know, I've not done it. So I'm kind of envious of those folks who do it regularly like you, and it's part of you, it's become a part of your routine, a part of your daily life. So good for you on that, because I just can't get myself into it.
Well, and if I don't journal, then I lose track of a lot of the things that I'm doing, working on, you know, if I'm supposed to go and meet with somebody for a coffee to talk about whatever, I need to write it down because what I've found is um, I'm trying to think of the words that the grief widow type thing, where what happens is when you lose a loved one, your brain kind of goes into lock mode and doesn't process stuff quite as easy. And like I can go into the basement of the house and get to the bottom set of stairs and then turn and ask myself, what am I doing here?
I do that too.
Yeah,
I do it too. I found myself doing that way more often lately.
yeah.
You know what I do? I don't journal, but I put reminders on my phone because I
That,
always have my phone on me because I have a rare form of diabetes. So I have one of those sensors in my arm. So I have to have my phone with me because they're connected and it gives me alarms if my sugar tanks. So I will put in like, oh, Kim, reminder, you've got to do this. And I put it in my phone. So it'll ding and let me know. So that's my mini journal.
yeah, it
Yeah,
works.
it works. Yeah, it works. So your newest book here. Now, look, let me backtrack. Let's just backtrack. Your first book was The Gift of Mentoring.
Correct.
And I think we talked about that the first time you were on my show, but briefly share a little bit about The Gift of Mentoring, the book, and how that came about.
The gift of mentoring is basically mentoring 101. It explains mentoring in very simplistic terms, and it gives examples of how to take the mentoring process and concepts and all of those things and apply that in a realistic or practical sense. How it came to be was that going through RCMP training, you're in a group of, there was 32 of us that were, it's in a troop. And so one of those individuals that had gone through that, Jim McKillop, he we graduated from the police force, got posted and that. And what Jim started to do was write motivational messages every morning to his children. And so he'd write these messages and send them to his children. And what came from that was somebody along the way said, you know, Jim, you should compile all these. This would make a great book, your motivational messages. So Jim did that and then turned to me one day and said, Doug, you write all these great, blog posts on mentoring and stuff like that. You should write a book.
Yeah.
And I go, go on.
Yeah.
Why would I want to do that? And so I did. I wrote, and that's how the gift of mentoring came to be.
That's an awesome story. Well, and you had it written though. Did you use your blogs?
Yeah, yeah. That was the, how would I word this? That was the,
Foundation of it?
yeah, it was the foundation, but what it was I got tricked. I got tricked into believing that writing a book was just, and it's not.
That it
Yeah,
was easy peasy lemon squeezy, huh?
yeah, yeah. And it
It's
wasn't.
not. You've since learned, haven't you? So, Doug, you've
Yes,
got a
yeah.
second book out, the second of three. So, the second one is You Are Not Alone. So, why don't you share a little bit about that book and how that one came about?
So you are not alone is part of the sort of the vision I have of mentoring being part of the support structure for mental health. And so the idea behind that is that I go to see my psychologist, my counselor, whoever, and my next appointment with them is 3, 4 months down the road. Is that's when they're next available. Well, who do I turn to then if I'm having issues or if I just need somebody to listen and hear what I'm going through, not being non-judgmental and all that. And what I saw was that it was a great place. It was a perfect place for mentoring to be inserted into the mental health support system. And so I just kept doing more and more research. And then I had some colleagues, some friends who said, you should write a book. Here we go again. You should write.
Yeah.
you should write a book and tell the story about how mentoring can be part of the support structure because we agree with what you're saying. So that was sort of the kickstart to get the book going, and um, it actually worked out quite well. Amazon #1 bestseller, North America and the UK, uh, Global Book Awards, the bronze medal. Uh, and then as part of that was uh, I'm now at that international mentoring or international best-selling author status, if you want to use that terminology. So
Well,
yeah, so
yeah, yeah. If you're selling in different countries as a bestseller, you are an international bestseller. So use it. Say it loud.
yeah,
That is awesome. That is awesome. So congratulations
thank
on
you. Yeah,
that reaching that status and then the Global Book Awards because I've entered a couple of my books and I've gotten finalist. I've been awarded a finalist, which is still cool because it's kind of like a fourth place. So it's still cool and exciting to me because I never expect anything.
yeah,
I
yeah.
enter it and I'm like, oh, this is a crapshoot. I'm gonna do it anyway. But my last two books have been a finalist, and I'm quite pleased with that. And I'm like, all right, so my next goal is maybe I can get a bronze. You know?
Well, and how I'm kind of like you, where I look at things from the aspect of I didn't do this to get the medal.
Right, right.
I have a story, we have stories to tell, stories to share with others that may make a difference in their life. And if that's what the outcome is, count me in. I'm 100% in on something like that.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. You had said something because I wrote it down while you were talking, um, about a minute and a half ago. One of your sentences was, you just need someone to hear.
Yeah,
So you're talking to a psychologist or psychiatrist, whomever, and the next appointment isn't for several months. And folks are, where do you go in between them because you need somebody to talk to? And you said you need someone to hear. That's so big.
yeah,
That's so powerful right there. Because you can talk and talk and talk, but if someone's not actually listening, to hear, and I'm often saying, uh, my thing is tossing out nuggets of hope. And I have this thing where you see people and you're like, oh, they're hurting. I'm really empathetic and I won't know the people, but I'm like, oh, I feel that, whatever it is. And you want to let them know, I see you right where you're at. And that's what, when you said you need someone to hear, that's what it made me think of see, that's the same along the same lines. You need someone to see you and to hear you. So I mean, your books, I think, are just amazing. And I am positive what it's doing to help others. And you're giving them that little stepping stone or that hand, you
yeah.
know, you're not, it's not a hand up, or it's not a hand out, but it's a hand up. It's like, yeah, I'm here. I hear you. I see you. That's so cool. I just love what you're doing, Doug. And so you've got a third book coming very shortly, folks, in April, called The Silent Pandemic. So,
Actually, it's changed. So
oh,
we
okay.
so it's grief, the silent pandemic.
Oh, well, that puts another powerful slam onto it then, doesn't it?
Oh, it does. Yeah, it does.
Adding one word. So the name of the book is Grief, The Silent Pandemic, releasing in April. And then let me see here. It speaks to how grief can be a part of your mental health challenge. Now, everyone has lost someone or lost something that you grieve. And for me, I know how that impacts my life. I also live with PTSD, and I believe that you do too, Doug. Um, and when other outside forces come at you, that just heightens
Yeah.
the other aspects of PTSD. So, how does okay, first off, grief, the silent pandemic. this is your third book and it's all in the same type of theme. But why? Why did you decide to do this one? That this is the one I had to do?
Because of Deborah. That's the short answer was I had she was part of the reason that I wrote You Are Not Alone. But then what I found was that her story was still yet not being told to the extent that I wanted it to be.
Mm.
And so Grief, the Silent Pandemic is just that. It is me taking Deborah's story, the extension of her story, and pushing it out a little bit further to sort of let people know that number one, I care, but more importantly is that there are people out there that do in fact care, how you feel. Are there some things I can do to help you feel better? Things along that line. And so, um, and the other part, I guess, is that from a, I've done 160 podcasts where I have either as a guest or a host or whatever, but that's Deborah's story. That's when I tell her story about, our time in the northern part of British Columbia and having to deal with trauma and what that looked like and how that impacted the family and so on and so on and so on. And I get to tell that story when that happens, and that becomes very therapeutic for me instead of keeping it bottled up inside, as we both know isn't the greatest thing to do, but it's to provide place, that place of safety where I know I can tell that story and it's okay.
So another good one coming out, folks. Grief, the silent, and I'm sure there's thousands of people that can benefit.
Yeah,
Thousands. So this is a well needed book. And I know there's other books out there about grief and such like that, but I think each one brings its own touch, and yours might hit someone exactly the way it's meant to. Your book. And that's what I'm always saying, with stuff that I do as well. It's going to land in the hands of exactly who it's meant to,
exactly.
and we will more than likely never hear about it or meet those people or know of them, but we can rest assured that it is landing, whether it's one person's hands or 1,000 or 10,000, whatever. It's landing right in front of whoever it's supposed to be landing in front of. So to me, that's a blessing, being able to talk. And that's what I call them, nuggets of hope. And your book, even though grief is in the title, it's a nugget of hope. That book. So you're tossing your own nuggets out there, and I think that's beautiful. I think it's an awesome thing. It's an awesome thing. So you also are offering virtual grief support groups. So how did that come about? Now I can kind of gather of how it came about, but what made you decide? Was it an epiphany, or something on your retreat that you're like, you know what, I want to do even more outside of the books. I want to be able to offer this to folks wherever they may be residing.
It's my way of giving back. So um, the local hospital, one of the hospitals here in the palliative care unit, actually has a program in place to provide grief support to people that are, and most of the individuals that are part of the program have lost someone due to cancer. Cancer, just we could have a whole conversation on just cancer by itself, but um, and so I needed counseling because I was struggling horribly, horribly, and I was your typical male with, the big, huge ego was I don't need help. I can make this, I'll figure this out on my own. And I got to a point where I couldn't.
Hmm.
And so I went to Marlene, who is the manager of the palliative unit that provides the support. And she, we went through a number of different modalities to sort of see if we could get to a place where I felt better, and we did. And she said, why don't you come to some of our support programs, some of our support groups? And so I did, and it was, I got hooked, and my big thing was that now, she helped me. Now I can help her by being a volunteer as part of her program, which is what I've done. And then, her focus is very much dealing with the massive numbers of individuals coming through the hospital, the palliative unit, and then stuff like that. And I got thinking that, well, there's got to be another place where we can plug in and provide, additional support to others. And so consequently, um, I'm doing some work with an organization, Harmonized Health, in Airdrie, Alberta. And I've been mentoring people, mentoring some of their clients and stuff like that as part of the services I offered. And I ended up seeing that as a result of, what we were doing, there was that gap. And we needed to fill that gap from when they finished the program to get to transition back into society. And so mentoring can definitely be part of that. But what also came out was in my conversations with some of the clients was that they were experiencing a lot of grief, having, there been a loss in the family, or there was a number of different reasons why. And I just took a step back and I went, here's a perfect place to plug what it is we're doing with grief support, to plug that into there. And so consequently, it started with them, and now it's, I'm working at trying to do something similar here in Regina to be able to help other people, because the demand for this type of service far exceeds the ability to be able to supply the resources that are needed. But we got to start someplace.
That's right. That is right. And with more folks like you, seeing that there's a need and saying, you know what? Well, I can't just sit back and say, gosh, what are we going to do? There's a need. You're actually taking steps to fill it. And I think that's awesome. So have you implemented it? Have you had any virtual support groups?
Yes, yeah, we implemented. So how I've structured it is it's 4 sessions, and um, it's every 2 weeks is how I've got it set up right now. So we did what the next one coming up is the 28th, and they're only an hour. That's, I've kept them, very um, conscious of time. Everybody's, and I mean, when it comes to grief, there are no boundaries as far as time is concerned. So, but a lot of people, very busy lives and stuff like that. So I said, okay, well, we'll keep it to the hour. And then if you want to do one-on-ones after that, then we can still set up a time to, have a personal conversation and stuff like that. And I'm always available. So that's the other thing is, if you get to a spot where things just aren't going well for you, just reach out and get a hold of me, and I'll do everything I can to be able to create some space for you and I to have a conversation. So, there's that part that's there.
So every 2 weeks and for 4 sessions for an hour. Is this something that's open to the public or is this just offered to folks in your area in Canada?
No, it's whoever,
Okay,
whoever.
so folks from down here in the
Yeah,
lower 48,
yeah,
49, whatever we are down here,
yeah.
the US. So where can folks find more information on that?
So they actually, if you know, that's a good question. If you go to my website, www.talentc.ca, and I forget where the link is, but there's a link that will take you to the launch of the grief support program, and it will have a couple call to action buttons that you can, if you want to be part of the group, you can go down that pathway. If you want to just have a one-on-one session, I'm having a rough day, I need somebody to talk to, so to speak, there's a call to action button that you can click on, and they all come back to me. So you're going to end up talking to me one way or the other.
Oh, so where do you see all of your stuff, this great stuff that you've been doing, Doug? You've got 3 books, you've got your grief support group, which you're offering virtually right now, as well as one-on-one. If folks, want that, that's another opening for them, an offer for them. What else are you going to be doing in the future? Or is this what's keeping you pretty darn busy? Or do you have something? You have something sitting on the back burner that you're looking forward to getting into?
What I'm hoping to be able to tackle is the aspect of taking what we've just been talking about and putting it into organizations so that the organization, number one, you can implement mentoring in an organization. Yeah, okay, that we can do that. But what about the mental health support structure? Where does that? And so I want to be able to bring, number one, bring awareness, but more importantly, to actually implement in an organization mentoring plus the mental health support structure. Because,
Awesome.
we're not doing our employees any great service by simply saying, suck it up, buttercup, and figure it out on your own.
You're
Doesn't,
right. And I know back in the day, my grandma, that era, even my mom, that was, you go to work, you leave private stuff at home. You come home, you leave work at work. Well, you spend half your life at work.
yeah,
A lot of times you're at work more than you're at home. So it's very hard to separate those two. And a lot of that, there's a lot of mental wear and tear that takes place, especially if you've got big stuff going on in your life, with the loss of a loved one or whatever the case may be. There's so much that people are going through, you know, on a daily basis. You can't separate all of that. And I like how you want to make sure that that mental health is included in because you can't function if you're not mentally healthy.
that's right.
And it's, I've been there, done that. You've been there, done that. It's hard. And sometimes just getting through the day is the win.
Yeah,
You might not have accomplished anything. I've had those days. And I will probably have them again, when the only win that you see is like, well, you know what? I took a shower today. And then I
hmm,
have to remind myself, you know what, Kim? You took a shower today. That's a win. You didn't shuffle around in your old sweatpants and sweatshirt and just, sit on the couch staring blindly at a TV and not even realize what you're looking at. So count the wins, folks, because
yeah,
they're there. You might not think it, but those little things that you get through or that help you get through each day, if you're going through tough stuff, you got to count them as a win.
yeah,
That's my little nugget I'm tossing. You got to count it as a win. And I've shared this so many times that a counselor told me, you're having a bad day and stuff. She goes, but you made it through the day. You made it through the day. So you're still standing and and this is what it hit me. And it was like, one of those times where you hear something and it just slams you. This one slammed me. She said, Kim, you have a 100% success rate for getting through the tough shit. Those were her words. And when she said that, and I went, oh my gosh, you're right. And she goes, and why am I right? And I said, because I'm still here.
yeah,
So I do have a 100% success rate for getting through the tough stuff. If you, flick that switch in your brain, if you're able to realize that really changed things for me. It's like, dang, that day was hard. Holy cow.
yeah.
Holy cow, this day was hard. but I'm still standing. So I still have a 100% success rate.
Yeah.
So, find what works for you, folks. That one works for me. Hey, write it down on a sticky note, stick it on your own wall. It might work for you too. But Doug, I want to, as we get ready to wrap up, this has been such a pleasure. I just love having you on. And I want to have you on again after your new book comes out. So, sometime further along in the year, I definitely want to have you back on so we can talk about the new book and how it's impacting the world, and especially your virtual support, grief support group. I want to hear more about that as that continues to expand. But where can folks find you? Share with them where they can find you and all the good stuff you're doing.
So my website, www.talentc.ca. So the word talent, small or letter C on the end.ca. Um, and we've talked a bit about the grief support program and stuff that's part. So there's a place for it on the website, but you can reach out to me through the contact me page and all that sort of stuff. You can also, I'm fairly active in LinkedIn, so you can also, message me through LinkedIn as well. But probably the easiest way is to just send me an email, and it's Doug.Lawrence, Lawrence, at TalentC, so the word talent with the letter C on the end.ca, and I will get back to you relatively fast, quick, however you want to word it. I will not leave you on the island by yourself, so I will get back to you as quickly as I can, and we'll work through whatever you need to you need help with. We'll certainly do that. So those would be I guess, the best way to get a hold of me.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Now, I ask all of my guests as we wrap up the show to toss out a nugget of hope for the listeners. So, what would your nugget of hope be today?
There are lots of challenges that we're all facing in the world today, and we've talked about some of them, grief and cancer and all of those things. But together we can battle or combat any of those in any way that we possibly need to, as long as we do it together. And one of the things is that I always say to people is it's okay to come out of the closet, and it's okay to come out of the closet and ask for help. And help is just around the corner. It's there for you. So don't be afraid. It's okay to say I need help.
Perfect. Perfect. And it is okay to say you need help. It's also okay to not feel okay. You don't have to wear a mask all the time. And I've said, I've had other folks say too, I had to put my pride to the side and
Mm.
ask for help
Yeah.
because sometimes that's what's holding us back, our own pride. And like you had said earlier, you said, well, being a man, I stuffed it all down. And I think, that applied to me as well. I stuffed things for years, but you and I both know it won't stay there. It will bubble out or explode out. It will come out at some point. Mine exploded when it feels like, oh my gosh, what just happened? My whole life's falling apart and you can't think straight, So yeah, don't stuff that stuff. Or if you do, you can pack it away for a bit, but it can't stay there. You've got to let it out. You got to air all that stuff out so you can make space for all the good stuff that needs to come in. That's a good one. Make space for the good stuff.
I like that.
I do too. I'm brilliant. I should write that down, Doug.
Should write that down.
I think I will. I have my pen. All right. Once again, Doug, thank you so much for being my guest today on Let Fear Bounce. This has been a true blessing, and I know that it is blessing all kinds of the folks that are listening today. And folks, don't forget to check out all of the good stuff that he's doing on his website. And all of that will be shared in the description and the show notes. Be sure that you like and subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe so you don't miss out on any episodes. Each week, new ones pop up. This is Kim Langling, your host of Let Fear Bounce. Doug, once again, thank you so much for being my guest today.
And thank you.
Everybody out there, be well, stay well, and above all, be blessed. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of Let Fear Bounce. Your time is precious, and I am so grateful that you chose to spend just a small part of it with myself and my guest today. If you've enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss our weekly nuggets of hope and inspiration. And remember, folks, let fear bounce because you've got this. So until next time, folks, keep your light shining bright.